I remember the exact moment everything started to fall apart. It was early Thursday morning, just before sunrise, the kind of quiet you only get when the world hasn't fully woken up yet. I was standing in my kitchen, holding a cup of black coffee, watching the light crawl slowly over the Tennessee hills I'd been staring at for the past 30 years. That's when my phone buzzed. One message. From my granddaughter. 3 sentences. And by the time I finished reading it, my hand wasn't steady anymore. Grandpa, don't come to Sunday dinner. Something is wrong with Dad. Meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow at noon. Come alone. Please don't tell Renee. I read it again. And again. There are messages you can brush off. And then there are messages that change the air around you. This was one of those. My name is Walter Hayes. I'm 68 years old. I spent most of my life building things with my hands. Houses, decks, cabinets, anything that needed patience and precision. I built my own home back in the mid-90s. 4 bedrooms. Solid oak floors. Every corner of that place carries a piece of me. My wife, Eleanor, used to say the house felt alive because I never stopped working on it. She's been gone for 2 years now. Stroke. Quick. No warning. One week we were planning a trip to the coast. The next, I was standing in a hospital hallway, trying to understand how silence could feel so loud. After she passed, things changed. Not just the house. Me. And my son, Daniel. He took it harder than he let on. Daniel's 41. Good man. Works logistics for a regional shipping company. Long hours, steady paycheck, but not much of a life outside of work. His first marriage fell apart years ago. Left him with a daughter, Lily. She's 15 now. Smart kid. Quiet. Observant in a way that makes you feel like she sees more than she says. About a year ago, Daniel met Renee. Conference in Atlanta. That's what he told me. Said she was different. Said she understood him. Said he finally didn't feel alone anymore. They moved fast. Too fast, if you ask me. Within a few months, she had relocated, moved into his apartment, and not long after that, they were engaged. Now I'll be honest with you. I didn't trust it. Not at first. Not because she did anything obvious. In fact, that was the problem. She did everything right. She was polite, attentive, always smiling, brought desserts when she visited, complimented my work, laughed at my stories like she'd heard them 100 times and still found them funny. But there was something underneath it, something I couldn't name, and when you've lived as long as I have, you learn to respect that feeling, even when you can't explain it. Lily stopped talking about weekends at her dad's place. That was the first real sign. I'd ask her how things were going, and she'd just say, fine. No details. No stories. Just one word and a quick change of subject. I told myself it was normal. Teenagers don't like change. New people in the house. New routines. It happens. But I was wrong. Then Daniel started changing too. Slowly. At first, it was just fatigue. He looked tired all the time. Then he lost weight. Not enough for people to panic. Just enough that you noticed something wasn't right. His hands would shake sometimes. Small tremors. Easy to miss if you weren't paying attention. He blamed stress, work pressure, lack of sleep. All the usual excuses men use when something deeper is going on, and they don't want to face it. I wanted to believe him. That's the truth. I wanted to believe everything was fine, that my son had finally found someone who made him happy, that I was just being an old man who didn't like change. But then Thanksgiving came, and I saw it with my own eyes. He reached for a glass of water and knocked it over. Not clumsy, not distracted. It was like his hand just didn't listen to him for a second. He laughed it off. Renee stepped in right away, put her arm around him, said he'd been overworking himself. Everyone nodded. Conversation moved on. But I didn't miss the look on her face. It wasn't concern. Not exactly. It was something colder. Something measured. Like she was watching a plan unfold exactly the way she expected. That should have been enough for me to act. It wasn't. And that's the part I regret the most. Because everything that happened after could have ended very differently. And then came that message. That Thursday morning. From a 15-year-old girl who had been carrying something alone for far too long. And deep down, before I even got in my truck the next day, I already knew. This wasn't going to be a misunderstanding. Something was very, very wrong. I got to Riverside Park 15 minutes early. When something feels wrong at my age, you don't show up late. You show up early and you pay attention. I sat on a weathered wooden bench facing the river, a thermos of coffee in my hand, watching the water move slow and steady like nothing in the world had changed. But everything had. Lily arrived exactly at noon, not a minute early, not a minute late. She came in on her bike, backpack slung over one shoulder, and when she saw me, she didn't wave. That was the first thing that told me just how serious this was. She locked the bike, walked over, and sat down beside me. For nearly a full minute, she didn't say a word, just stared at the river. Then she took a breath and said quietly, "I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't rush her. You don't rush someone when they're carrying something heavy. You let them put it down in their own time." She reached into her backpack and pulled out her phone. "I found something," she said, and handed it to me. It was a picture of a bottle, a regular, over-the-counter magnesium supplement, the kind you see in any pharmacy aisle. But the cap was off, and the pills inside weren't magnesium. They were smaller, different color, different shape. I felt something cold settle in my chest. "Where did you find this?" I asked. "In the kitchen cabinet," she said, "behind the other vitamins." On her side. She didn't have to say the name. I knew who she meant. "Did you check what they were?" She nodded and swiped to the next photo. A screenshot from a pill identification site. The markings matched a prescription blood thinner. Not something you casually leave in a vitamin bottle. Not something you give someone without them knowing. My fingers tightened around the phone. "There's more," she said. That sentence. That's the one that really got me. Because it meant this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't one strange detail. This was a pattern. She told me she'd been watching, not on purpose at first. Just noticing things. Renee making Daniel's vitamins every morning. Always the same routine. Orange juice. A small cup. 5 pills. Handed to him like a loving habit. But one morning, Lily saw something different. She was standing in the hallway. Quiet. Not meant to be seen. And she watched Renee take a bottle out of her purse. Not from the counter. Not from the cabinet. From her purse. She opened it. Slipped 2 pills into her palm. Looked around. And added them to Daniel's vitamins. She checked if anyone was watching, Lily said. She didn't see me. I felt my jaw tighten. How long ago? About 6 weeks. 6 weeks. That girl had been carrying this for 6 weeks. Watching her father slowly get worse. Not knowing if she was imagining things or witnessing something real. "Why didn't you tell someone sooner?" I asked gently. She shook her head hard, eyes locked on the river. "Because if I was wrong, I would ruin everything. And if I was right..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. I knew exactly how it ended. I asked her if anything else had happened. She hesitated. Then she reached into her bag again and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "This came out of the printer at home," she said. I think she forgot it was there. I unfolded it carefully. It was a letter. Half printed. Addressed to an attorney. It mentioned Daniel's full name. Talked about updating beneficiary information on a life insurance policy. And the law office listed wasn't local. It was 2 hours away. Not anyone Daniel had ever mentioned. Not anyone I recognized. That's when the picture came together. Not all at once, but enough. The pills, the symptoms, the secrecy, the legal documents. This wasn't random. This was planned. Slow, careful, deliberate. I folded the paper and slipped it into my jacket pocket. My mind was already moving, putting pieces together, trying to stay ahead of something that had clearly been in motion for months. I looked at Lily. Really looked at her. This 15-year-old girl who had been watching, thinking, carrying fear she shouldn't have had to carry alone. "You did the right thing," I told her. My voice was steady, even though everything inside me was not. "No," she said quietly. "I should have told you sooner." "You told me when it mattered," I said. "That's what counts." She swallowed hard, then finally asked the question she'd been holding back the entire time. Is my dad going to be okay? I didn't hesitate. Not for a second. Yes. I said it like it was a fact, because in that moment, it had to be. She nodded, but I could see the fear still sitting behind her eyes. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. Listen to me carefully, I said. I need you to stay somewhere else for a few days. Don't go back to the apartment. Stay with a friend. Tell your mom you're not feeling well. Keep it simple. And don't say a word about any of this to anyone, especially not her. Lily nodded again, more firmly this time. Okay. We sat there a little longer. Not talking, just listening to the river move. Because once you know something like this, there's no going back to before. When I finally stood up, I felt different, clearer, heavier, but focused in a way I hadn't been in months. Because now I wasn't guessing anymore. Now I knew. Someone had been poisoning my son. Slowly, carefully, right in front of us. And the only reason I knew was because a 15-year-old girl refused to look away. I drove home from the park and sat in my kitchen for nearly 3 hours without moving. Not pacing, not talking, just sitting there, staring at the grain of the wood table like it might give me an answer. When you've lived long enough, you learn the difference between reacting and deciding. And this needed to be done right. Because if I was wrong, I could destroy my son's life. But if I was right, I might be the only thing standing between him and something far worse than that. Around 3 in the afternoon, I picked up my phone and called a man I trusted more than most people I've known in my life. His name is Harold Bennett. We worked construction together in our 20s. He went on to spend 25 years as an investigator for the county district attorney before retiring. The kind of man who doesn't talk much, but when he does, you listen. I told him everything. The message. The pills, the letter, the behavior. He didn't interrupt me once. When I finished, there was a long silence on the line. Then he said, Walter, if what you're describing is real, you cannot confront her. Not yet. I leaned back in my chair, eyes closed. I figured as much. If she's doing this intentionally, he continued, she's already thinking ahead. If your son questions her, she'll clean everything up and disappear before anyone can prove a thing. That's when I understood just how serious this was. This wasn't about suspicion anymore. This was about evidence. So, what do we do? I asked. He told me. Step by step, calm, methodical. The kind of plan that only comes from years of watching people lie for a living. And when he finished, there was only one question left. Can you do that? He asked. I looked around my empty kitchen, thought about my son, thought about Lily, thought about the last time I saw Daniel's hands shake when he tried to lift a glass. Yeah, I said quietly. I can do that. The next morning, I called Daniel. I kept my voice soft. A little tired. Just enough to sound real. Hey, son, I said. I've been feeling a bit off lately. House feels too quiet. Thought maybe I could come stay with you a few days. Keep you company. There was a pause on the other end. Not long, but long enough. Dad, you don't have to do that, he said. I know I don't, I replied. I want to. Another pause. Then I heard him shift the phone slightly. Let me ask Renee. That was the moment. I sat there, staring at the wall, waiting for the answer from the person I now believed was poisoning my son. He came back 2 minutes later. She says that sounds great, he said. We've got plenty of room. Of course she did. Of course she said yes. A man getting weaker by the day. And now his aging father moving into the house too. From her perspective, that wasn't a problem. That was an opportunity. I packed a small bag. Clothes, toiletries. And at the very bottom, wrapped carefully beneath everything else, 3 items Harold had given me. 2 wireless cameras, small enough to fit in the palm of my hand, and a voice-activated recorder. He'd shown me exactly how to use them, where to place them, what angles mattered, what not to touch. When I arrived at the apartment that afternoon, Daniel opened the door, and I wasn't ready for what I saw. Pictures don't show it. Phone calls don't show it. But standing there in front of me, My son looked like a man who had been slowly drained of something essential. His skin was pale. His eyes moved slower than they should. And when he hugged me, I felt it. The tremor. Subtle, but real. I held on to him a second longer than usual. Not enough to be noticed, just enough to feel the truth of it. Then she appeared. Renee. Warm smile. Bright eyes. Arms open like I was family. "Walter, it's so good to see you," she said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. Her voice was perfect. Not too eager. Not too distant. Just right. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just acting. She had been acting for so long. It had become second nature. I smiled back. Played my part. "Good to see you too," I said. That evening, I watched everything. Not, obviously. Not directly. Just enough. Dinner was normal. Same food for all of us. That didn't surprise me. She wasn't careless. If she was doing something, it would be controlled. Specific. Targeted. The vitamins came before dinner. Just like Lily described. A small cup. Orange juice on the side. Daniel took them without thinking. Didn't even look down. That's how habits work. That's how trust works. I counted. 5 pills. I memorized the shape. The color. The order. After dinner, Daniel said he was tired and went to lie down. Middle of the evening. A grown man barely able to stay awake. Renee turned to me with that same calm smile. "Would you like some tea?" she asked. "Sure," I said. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. Just the two of us. And I realized something in that moment. This wasn't just about catching her. This was about surviving her. She asked questions. Soft, polite, careful. About my house. How many rooms? How long I'd owned it. If I ever thought about downsizing. Every question wrapped in concern, but aimed at something deeper. She wanted to know what I had. I gave her just enough. Told her I had updated my will last year. That everything went to Daniel. And if something happened to him, it would go directly to Lily. I watched her eyes. Not her smile. Her eyes. And there it was. Just for a second. Calculation. Quick. Controlled. But real. That's when I knew. This wasn't about Daniel alone. She had been thinking about all of us. That night, when the apartment finally went quiet, I lay in the guest room staring at the ceiling, waiting, listening. Every small sound felt louder. Every second stretched longer, because I knew. If Lily was right, this was the part where the truth would reveal itself. And when it did, there would be no turning back. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay there in the dark, eyes open, listening to a house that felt different now. When you suspect danger, even silence has a weight to it. Every creak, every shift of air, it all sounds like something. Around midnight, I checked the feed on my phone. Both cameras were live. One aimed at the kitchen counter, the other angled toward the pantry. Clean view. No blind spots. Exactly how Harold told me to set it up. At 12:23, the kitchen light came on, just like that. No hesitation, no pause. Renee walked in barefoot, like this was routine. Like she had done it enough times that her body didn't even think about it anymore. She moved straight to the pantry. No wandering, no second guessing. Reached behind a row of canned goods and pulled out a small brown bottle. No label. That alone told me everything I needed to know. She set it on the counter, opened the vitamin container Daniel used every morning, and started counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then she stopped, opened the brown bottle, and added 2 more pills. Slow, careful, like she understood exactly what those 2 pills meant. I felt my jaw lock. There it was. Not suspicion, not theory. Proof. Clear, clean, undeniable. She stood there for a second after, just looking at the cup, like she was reviewing her work. Then she put everything back exactly where it belonged. Bottle hidden, counter wiped, light off. Gone, like nothing had happened. I sat there in the dark, staring at my phone. My heart wasn't racing. That's the strange part. It was steady, focused. Because now I knew, and when you know, fear turns into something else. I texted Harold. I've got it. He replied almost immediately. Good. Don't confront. We move in the morning. I didn't sleep after that. I didn't need to. By 5, I was already up, moving quietly, thinking clearly, because timing was everything now. I went into the kitchen before anyone else woke up, opened the cabinet, found the regular vitamins, the real ones. I replaced the contents of Daniel's cup. Same number, same look, but clean, safe. Then I put the cup back exactly where Renee would expect it to be. Precision matters in moments like this. You don't change the pattern. You step into it. At 6:30, she walked in, stopped when she saw me already sitting there with a cup of coffee and the morning paper. Just a fraction of a second. That's all it was. But I saw it. Surprise. Then it was gone. Smile back in place. You're up early, she said. Old habit, I replied. She glanced at the counter, at the vitamin cup, and I watched her brain work. I set those up for him, I said casually. Figured I'd help out. That's thoughtful, she said. Voice steady, face perfect. But her hand didn't move toward the cup. Not right away. Daniel came out around 7, slower than usual. But something was different. He looked clearer, just slightly, like a fog had lifted overnight. He took the vitamins, drank his juice, sat down. I actually feel a little better this morning, he said. Weird. I didn't look at her. But I didn't have to. I knew she heard it. I knew she understood exactly what that meant. A few minutes later, she excused herself, said she needed to make a phone call, went into the bedroom and closed the door. That was it. That was the crack. At 9:15, there was a knock at the door. Not a casual knock. Firm. Official. The kind you don't ignore. She got there first, opened it, and everything changed in an instant. 2 detectives. Uniformed. Focused. Harold standing just behind them. Ma'am, we have a warrant, one of them said. Her voice went high immediately. Sharp. Controlled panic. There must be some mistake. I walked into the hallway, stood beside Daniel. He looked confused, disoriented, trying to piece together something his mind wasn't fully ready to process. Renee, I said calmly. She turned to me, and for the first time, I saw her without the mask. No warmth, no softness, just calculation, and something colder underneath it. I've been recording the kitchen, I said, since I got here. That was it. That was the moment it ended for her. The detectives moved past her, straight to the pantry, reached behind the canned goods, found the bottle exactly where it had been. No hesitation. No doubt. Evidence doesn't argue. It just sits there and tells the truth. They found more in her car. Same pills, different containers, a backup supply. That told me something else too. This wasn't temporary. This was long-term, planned, structured. She wasn't improvising. She had a system. Daniel sat down hard in the hallway chair, hands on his knees, breathing slow, like he was trying to stay upright in a world that had just shifted under his feet. Dad, what is happening? He asked. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time since all this started, I let the truth come out. You're going to be okay, I said. But we're a little late in figuring out why you weren't. They put the cuffs on her, right there in the doorway. She didn't fight, didn't cry, didn't scream. She just stood there, still, controlled, until the last second, when they started to walk her out. Then she looked at me. Not at Daniel, not at the officers. At me. Like she was trying to understand how I had seen through something she thought was perfect. I didn't say a word. Didn't need to. Because in that moment, the game was over. And she knew it. Within an hour, Daniel was in the hospital. Not for observation, not for caution, for intervention. The doctors moved fast once they understood what they were looking at. Blood work, scans, full panels. I stood in the hallway while they ran everything, staring at a vending machine like it might tell me something useful. When the physician finally came out, his face was calm, but his eyes weren't. "Your son's been receiving a consistent dose of a medication that interferes with clotting," he said, "combined with a sedative." I didn't say anything. I just listened. "It wouldn't kill him quickly," he continued. "That's the point. It would make him weak, disoriented. Over time, it would look like stress or decline." He paused, then added quietly, "If this had gone on a little longer, we'd be having a different conversation." I nodded once. That was enough. Lily sat by Daniel's bed that night. Didn't say much, just held his hand. Stronger than anyone should have to be at 15. I saw her when she thought no one was looking. The way her shoulders shook just slightly. I put my hand on her back. She leaned into me for a second, then straightened up like she had a job to do. And she did. She saved his life. Daniel didn't talk about Renee at first. Not right away. When he finally did, it wasn't anger that came out. It was confusion. "I thought she loved me," he said, staring at the ceiling. "I thought I wasn't alone anymore." That's the part that stays with you. Not just what someone does, but what they pretend to be while they're doing it. The investigation didn't take long to open up into something bigger. Much bigger. The pills weren't random. They were sourced through someone she had been in contact with for years. Not a friend, not family. A partner. Different state. Different name. But the same pattern. There had been another case. An older man. Georgia. Widower. Decline that looked natural. Death that didn't raise questions at the time. Until now. They reopened it. And this time, they found what they were looking for. Renee hadn't just planned this. She had practiced it. The financial side came next. And that might have been the most disturbing part of all. Documents, drafts, lists, everything organized. Daniel's accounts, his business share, his insurance policy, my house, my savings. Estimated values written next to each line like it was inventory. Not people. Assets. Numbers at the bottom. Totaled. Calculated. That's how she saw us. The trial came 11 months later. I sat through most of it. Didn't say much. Didn't need to. The evidence spoke clearly enough. The video. The medication. The forged documents. The connection to the earlier case. Her defense tried to explain it away. Said she was helping. Said she misunderstood. Said she trusted the wrong person. But lies don't hold up well when the truth is documented from 3 different angles. The jury took less than a day. Guilty on everything. Attempted murder, fraud, conspiracy, and charges tied to the earlier death. When the judge gave the sentence, 30 years, the courtroom stayed quiet. No outbursts. No drama. Just a kind of stillness that settles when something final has been decided. They put the cuffs on her again, and just before they led her away, she looked at me. Same as before, like she was still trying to figure it out. I didn't look away. I didn't feel victory or satisfaction. Just a release. Like something that had been held tight for too long finally let go. Daniel sold the apartment a month later. Said he couldn't walk into that kitchen without seeing things he didn't want to see. He moved closer to me. 12 minutes away now. I can make that drive before my coffee gets cold. He took time off, went to therapy, started rebuilding himself piece by piece. And slowly, he came back. The color returned. The weight came back. The tremor disappeared. But more than that, the light came back into his eyes. That's how you know someone's really healing. Lily moved in with him full-time for a while. Said she wanted to be there. Not because she had to. Because she chose to. She painted her room dark green. Built shelves with him on a Saturday afternoon. Filled them with books. Plans. Ideas. She talks more now. Not about what happened, but about what matters. There's a difference. We have dinner together every Sunday. Same table. Same routine. Sometimes Daniel cooks. He's getting good at it. Last week, he made a stew that he was far too proud of. And we let him be. Because pride, honest pride, is a good sign. It means something inside you is working again. I've thought a lot about what happened, about the signs I ignored, the feeling I pushed aside because it was inconvenient, because I wanted things to be okay. That's the part people don't talk about enough. Instinct isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And if you ignore it long enough, you stop hearing it altogether. I almost did. Lily didn't. She saw something that didn't make sense, and she stayed with it, even when it scared her, even when it meant risking everything. That's courage. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind. The kind that saves lives. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's simple. Pay attention to the people you love. Not just when things go wrong, but all the time. Notice the small changes, the things that don't quite fit, because sometimes those small things are the only warning you get. These days, I still wake up early, still drink my coffee by the window, still watch the sun come up over the same hills I've watched for decades. But I don't take those mornings for granted anymore, because I know how close we came to losing everything. Daniel is here, Lily is safe, and we're still a family. That's not luck. That's something we fought for. And I'll tell you this. If you ever find yourself in a moment where something feels wrong, don't wait. Don't explain it away. Don't hope it fixes itself. Pay attention. Because sometimes, that feeling is the only thing standing between someone you love and a story that ends very differently.